Hello folks and welcome to another video. In this one I'll be reviewing Ryanair and our holiday to Venice. So Ryanair is a cheap airline and it feels it, but it's not too bad. 2 hours on the plane like this is okay. The seats aren't massively comfortable, they're a little bit tight. There's no in-flight entertainment or food unless you pay for it. But do you know what? On a 2-hour flight, read a book, have a little nap, and that'll be over before you know it. Boarding process and that, not too bad, but you know, it is budget. So this is the sort of thing you see when you start to head down to the boats to get yourself to Venice. And just here's some imagery of Venice. It's got beautiful medieval architecture. Here's the Airbnb we stayed in. Cost about £87 a night, so probably cheaper than a hotel, and you get the entire place. Obviously there's an oven, a sink and all that sort of thing in there. Living room and a bedroom. It's not a bad sized flat really, for like 2 people. More people could stay there because the living room futons can actually obviously fold out, and then you could fit another probably, I don't know if you want to get 2 couples in there, but I think you could comfortably get 4 people in this flat. It's quite well appointed, quite nice, quite close to the docks for when you get off the boat. The boat itself is very cool. It's you can get in by train if you want, or you can get you can get a taxi across in a speedboat. The taxi speedboats are pretty expensive, to be honest. You're probably talking about £150 to get there with one of them. So I'd take the boat. It takes about 20 odd minutes, but it's quite nice. You see all the scenery and that, and it's comfortable, and the staff on it are very helpful. There's some more scenery of some of the canals. As you're probably aware, if you've been to Venice or read up on it at all, it's all canals essentially. The place was built on a lagoon, so it's essentially built on piles made of wood, and the idea is they got these piles into the through the soft lagoon and then into the clay underneath. And by compacting so many piles in there, they're actually able to push the water out of the clay, thus making the clay basically rock solid and lacking in water. And then the surrounding water that was above that is actually so salty that it sort of desiccated the wood and almost turned it into rock. Hence why this city's been around, like, 2,000 years, and most of it is still on the same sort of foundations that it was originally built on. Some of it's actually built on the water as well, but most of it was built on a sort of lagoon. Now, there's a couple of canals we went over on the bridges where we thought, oh, it does smell a little bit. But when people say, oh, Venice smells, it stinks, it doesn't. The vast majority of the canals the water's being constantly moved by boats. So it doesn't really, for the most part, have a chance to smell. This is beautiful here. We had lunch there one day. That's another thing. The food, obviously, in Venice is absolutely delicious. And you can get basically anything you want, pretty much. I mean, one day, my wife had a lovely, delicious pizza, and I had sushi. And, of course, we had to try out Burger King and McDonald's while we were there as well. And they do some quite unique and different things there. This, we had, that was cuttlefish and squid ink pasta. That was delicious. You can't really see it in that picture, but they made faces and stuff out of the dough. This is just, I thought it was funny how expensive these shoes were. I think they're about £800. They look horrible, but that's designer stuff for you. Of course, that's the Doge's Palace, the outside. Beautiful building, and this is the Basilica. Absolutely incredible that they could build that, really. That's looking over the bay there. Of course, we went right up the top up there. There's a bit of a wait to get in there, and you cannot use the stairs, but I'm not too upset about that. You have to use the lift, and I really was quite happy to use the lift up there. And that's the view out across the square. Of course, here's some of the imagery in some of the museums as well. Some absolutely beautiful artwork on display. And here's a close-up of some of the mosaics that were used to make the scenes in the Basilica. Incredible, absolutely incredible. When you look out across those pictures there, a lot of that is actually made up of mosaic. So, I mean, the time and the energy and the dedication to do that is just incredible, really. It's a beautiful thing to see. And I'm sad we don't make buildings like this anymore. I don't expect them to be on the same scale as this, but the craftsmanship and the love is gone. Perhaps that's a bit of an analogy for modern society, really. But there we go. All of that above you there in the video is all done in mosaic. You can get pretty close when you go to the upper levels, and you can really get up close and see it, and it is bewildering, to be honest. It's incredible. So Venice is a city of history. As I said, it goes back about 2,000 years when they were trying to escape the marauding Huns after the fall of the Roman Empire, and they came here. Now the place was obviously overrun with malaria and all things like that, and it's just incredible that they managed to do this. It's sheer will of engineering and skill that this place was actually built. That's at the top of the tower. Get absolutely beautiful views all across Venice.
Yeah, we were just down there, weren't we?
And it's incredible to think all of this is built on wooden piles driven into the clay. That's the outside of the Basilica. Now, obviously, as you can see from these videos and pictures, the place gets pretty busy. This is a bit earlier on in the day, but later on in the day it gets really, really busy. I think Venice itself gets about 30 million visitors a year, so that's, it's quite a lot of people pass through there. So how many days would you need? Well, if you're very proactive and you really walk a lot, you could probably see most of Venice in about 3 days. But if you want to have a more relaxed kind of tour and, not be on your feet 24/7, as it were, I'd recommend probably taking about 5 days, include the flights in them, so about 4.5 days. And you can have a relaxed tour of the place. We tended to have breakfast in the flat and then went out and we'd get a nice lunch and a nice dinner. And because of the amount of walking you're doing, well, I think we did about 23,000 steps each day. You actually sort of earn that meal, as it were. So as a primarily tourist city now, things are expensive. So we got, for example, a couple of bottles of this lemonade that they do there. I haven't seen it anywhere else. Absolutely delicious. But that cost €7 each for that. So I think our entire meal overlooking the bay, which included 2 bottles of that drink, 2 pasta dishes, a pizza and a cappuccino, came to about 60 Great British pounds, or maybe 70. Quite expensive, but it was incredible. That is the nicest carbonara I've ever had anywhere. I just couldn't even describe to you how nice it was. Even the McDonald's was nice. Although we did have breakfast there one day, just to see what it was like and to get something quick. And it was okay. The breakfast was okay. But the rest of the food was quite different. Bit of a cut above, really. So expect to pay a lot for your food. I mean, there are cheaper places you could go. You could get like slices of pizza, for example. And then you're paying about €5 a slice, which is about £3.50 a slice. So nothing is cheap there, but it's a small city-state where everything has to be bought in by boat. So there's an inherent extra cost there. Plus there's the cost of the fact that you're on holiday. I think if you are worried about the cost of food, perhaps visit the little supermarkets that are around and purchase your own food. That actually was pretty fairly priced. And then if you're staying in a flat like we were, which I can highly recommend, you can just cook your own food each night. Maybe just get a bit of lunch out. That might be a way, like if you've got a family with you and you're thinking this is getting expensive, that might be a way to actually save yourself some money. Or of course you can take bottled water with you. Like I said, everything, you walk everywhere. I mean, you could take gondolas everywhere, but they're pretty expensive. We went on one and it was about £80 for half an hour. So if you're going to take gondolas everywhere, it's pretty expensive. Although if you're going in like a group of 4 or 5 of you, that £80 is for the gondola, not per person. So you can split that off and it would actually be not too bad then. But I'd recommend walking everywhere really, because you see so much more than you do in the gondolas. Although it is cool to go in one, but a lot of the buildings as well, they will look run down on the outside, but that is actually, to a degree, that's by design. So these buildings are, some of them 2,000 years old, some of them not, but their idea is that they're proud of their ancient architecture. And by, for example, trying to put all stucco over the front and paint it up and that, you're actually kind of covering up the history. Now, what you'll find is the outside of the buildings might look a bit run down, like I said, because they're 2,000 years old. But once you get inside, they've really made them look nice. This is that carbonara I had. Absolutely incredible. Really, really delicious. And this was the view we had over the bay as we were eating. This is the Arsenal Museum. Very cool. It shows off all the boats and things that have been made in Italy, but also in Venice in particular. They had their own boat yard because many moons ago, Venice was actually quite a naval warfare powerhouse. So they would build all their boats there and they would have to actually fight off other people because Venice was, at the time, the kind of capital of international trade. Everything would go through there. And of course other people wanted that, and there's all these little salamanders around which are very cute to look at. I tried to get as close to him as possible, but I didn't really want to scare him off. And here we have a view over the bay again. There's plenty of places to sit in most areas. Tons of places to eat. It's bewildering the amount of places to eat, and the gelato and that is beautiful as well, and just the scenery and stuff is absolutely lovely. So for me, I would say early April is probably about the best time to go to Venice because the weather is mostly lovely and sunny, but not boiling hot. You're talking about 20 degrees, but the sun is strong, so that 20 degrees feels a bit more than that. I would recommend taking some good sunscreen and wear a hat and take some decent sunglasses. Although because of the built-up nature and the narrow streets in Venice, this is the meal I cooked for us in our flat. I did some nice Parmesan oil there. This is the some of the sushi that I had. Absolutely delicious. I've never had it like that before, where it's deep fried on the outside only. I don't know how they managed to do that, but it was incredibly tasty. But yeah, what I was saying, as the streets are all very close together, generally speaking, it's easy to find shade. I took a video of this because I thought this was actually really cool. We didn't see much of this, but they have to dredge the canals to keep them sort of moving and stop them getting clogged up. So we could see the chap here was like digging out waste and stuff out of here and then replacing the clay, I think closer to the buildings, perhaps to help with the foundations. But yeah, you'll see them, if you look for it, you'll see them around digging out areas where they have perhaps gotten a bit silted up. Because of course it is a lagoon and the ocean will wash into there, and occasionally will actually bring the water level right a couple of feet up everywhere in the city, which is, possibly fun for tourists, a bit of adventure, but for people who live there it's pretty upsetting, I'd imagine, to keep having your business be flooded out. So you'll notice a lot of businesses don't have much stuff at ground on the floor. Everything is up. So I think if they're ready for if water does come in. And also you'll see a lot of businesses have got these like barriers on the front doors that they can put in quickly if need be, and some just seem to leave them in all the time, but it means if water were to suddenly come up, they are more or less shielded from it. But that can happen. Italy is currently building a like defensive sort of perimeter with these levees and stuff that raise up to try to block out the water. But of course you need the water to exchange the water that's in Venice, so it's a difficult act in order to get the water to exchange, but not to the level where it's flooding Venice. Yeah. Well, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe to my channel, and check out my Patreon. Thank you for watching.